I'm going to tell you what is a good salary in Mexico. How much money do you need to earn a month for a good living in this beautiful country? I'm going to start talking about the minimum salary in Mexico. The minimum salary in Mexico is 207 pesos with 44 cents per day. This is around 12 American dollars with 38 cents per day. In Mexico, people work a usual time of 48 hours per week, divided into 6 days. This means that in Mexico, you have to work 8 hours per day, sometimes very hard work, to get paid for 12 American dollars with 38 cents of payment for your 8 hours of work. That means if you work for the minimum salary in Mexico, you will get paid around $1 with 55 cents per hour and around $322 a month. So this is a very small salary if we compare it with salaries in countries like USA, Canada, or UK. I searched for the minimum salary in those countries and it's around $16 per hour. Of course, it depends on the state and other things, but that's like the average salary. If we think about it, it's like 10 times more money than the minimum salary here in Mexico. But of course, everything is cheaper here in Mexico. Of course, the minimum salary is higher in those countries like Canada, USA, but the things you buy in those countries, of course, are more expensive than the things you can buy here in Mexico. And while this is a disadvantage for many people, for other people, this is a big advantage. For local people like me, that's a very bad salary. Honestly, you can't afford a decent life with that salary. If you want to rent a good living, you will need to spend almost your monthly salary just to pay the rent of the living. A cheap living in Mexico, it's around 4,000 pesos, which is like $200. But the minimum salary a month is around $320. So, well, and I'm talking just about a single person, even a young person. But of course, we can't talk about affording all the expenses of a big family, for example. You can't afford all the expenses with that salary. And that's why I think the minimum salary in Mexico is not a good salary. And I told you before that while this is a disadvantage for many people, for other people, this is an advantage. For example, people who earn money in dollars, pounds, euros. And actually, that's one of the reasons why foreigners decide to come here to live, because their money can buy more. Of course, that's not the main reason. There are many reasons why someone would like to come to Mexico. But of course, the cost of living is one of the reasons, of course. Para ti, ¿cuánto es un buen salario? ¿Cuánto crees que ganar al mes es un buen salario?
Yo pienso que alrededor de unos 35,000 al mes.
35,000, ok. ¿Por qué crees que esa cantidad es un buen salario y no menos?
Pues yo creo que con esa cantidad ya es un estilo de vida más o menos bien, o sea, estable pues. Yo creo que con menos no lo podrías hacer.
Para ti, ¿cuánto es un buen salario en México mensualmente?
Salario en México, como unos, no sé, 35, 40 mil pesos.
35, 40 mil. ¿Y esa cantidad es como te refieres para ti solita, supongo?
No, para una familia, por ejemplo, o sea, mínimo, para una familia.
Ah, ok.
Pero si vives solo, como unos 25 es la mitad, más o menos.
Okay. ¿Como para cuántos miembros de la familia crees que alcance esa cantidad?
No muchos, como 3.
3.
Sí, apretaditos.
¿Y el estilo de vida cómo te lo imaginas con esa cantidad?
Pues a lo mejor sí pueden salir los fines de semana a dar, no sé, al cine de repente, pero no todos los fines de semana, sino unas 2 veces al mes.
¿Te lo imaginas como una vida cómoda pero no lujosa?
Ah, exacto.
Ah, ok. Para ti, ¿cuánto es un buen salario en México? ¿Con cuánto crees que se vive bien?
Pues yo creo que con unos 2,000, 2,500 a la semana.
Mes, ¿no?
Al mes.
¿Y eso sería, por ejemplo, hablando para ti solito o para una familia?
Tal vez para una familia estaría un poquito apretado, pero yo creo que sí.
Ok, ok. Con ese dinero, por ejemplo, ¿cuántos miembros de una familia crees que se podrían sustentar?
3, así la pareja y un hijo, tal vez.
Ok, con eso más o menos como qué te alcanza, qué estilo de vida crees que con eso se puede llegar a tener.
Yo creo que lo básico, así alimento y tal vez para estudios y así.
Para ustedes, ¿cuánto sería un buen salario en México mensualmente?
16, 17 mil, obviamente, para cubrir gastos de vivienda y pues en nuestro caso de escuela.
Para ti, ¿cuánto es un buen salario aquí en México mensualmente?
Como 10,000, 15,000 pesos, creo que está bien.
Con esa cantidad, ¿qué estilo de vida se puede tener?
Pues uno no muy estrafalario, no muy exorbitante, pero creo que puedes pagar una buena renta, hacer despensa bien y así.
¿Para ti solo o como para también sustentar a otra persona?
No, creo que sí, para una persona nada más.
¿Sí? Para una pareja, ¿cuánto crees que podría ser un buen salario?
25, 30 mil pesos.
Ok, perfecto. So, Gis, we could see that for people, the average salary for having a decent life, it's like around 12,000, maybe 10,000, the minimum salary to afford a decent life. Of course, not a luxury life, but a decent life. So, in general, we can see that the average Mexican citizen consider two minimum salaries a decent salary. So, I think a good salary is something subjective, because what is a good salary for me may not be a good salary for someone else. For example, I have my needs, I have my expenses, but of course the needs and expenses of a family, for example, will not be the same. It's a very different case. So I think it depends in your circumstances, your lifestyle. If you want a luxury lifestyle, a normal life, let's say it like that. For example, I'm not a person who wants a very luxury life. But of course, there are people who want a very luxury life, so maybe what I consider a good salary may not be a good salary for that people. In general, I think a good salary for me, and I'm talking just about myself, is just my opinion, is just according with my lifestyle. I'm a single person. For me, just for me alone, I consider at least maybe 1,500 a month. That's the amount of money I consider good for me. Starting from 1,500, and of course, if I can earn more, of course, it would be so much more better. But for me, yes, 1,500 is a good salary for me. Of course, in Mexico, earning that amount of money is not easy. It's actually very difficult to achieve that money. If we see the minimum salary, which is like around 300, earning 1,500 is a lot of money. It's like 4 or 5 times the minimum salary. Of course, I always I like to work. I like to make efforts to make that money, but of course, it's not easy. It's not easy. I think it's the minimum salary for me to keep my lifestyle, my expenses. But of course, even for me, it's not easy to achieve that amount of money, because it's not easy. It's not easy, but I consider that with that amount of money, 1,500, you can have a decent life. Yeah.